So there's this religion that's really popular right now. It's being glorified by the mainstream media constantly. The belief in this religion is so destructive that it can make people willingly betray the fundamental principles of liberty they claim to believe in. This religion is called statism. In a recent example, a man from Hopkinsville, Kentucky peacefully exercised his freedom, not hurting anyone else at all, by standing on a flag in protest to show how he feels about the United States government. Not long later, a group of extremely confused individuals wearing red, white, and blue showed up, only to prove they don't believe in freedom at all. They gathered outside the man's home, calling for him to be silenced and arrested by government agents, while claiming they're fighting for freedom.
They want police to arrest him for disrespecting the flag.
Hopefully they will arrest this man.
The guy deserves to be in jail.
The person is guilty of desecration of venerated objects.
Brown and other protesters see themselves as patriots.
My first thought when I saw this was, these hypocrites don't have the slightest understanding of the concept of freedom. What's funny is I bet they would all enthusiastically agree that everyone should be able to say whatever they want, and everyone should be able to purchase whatever they want and do with it whatever they please. Yet there they are literally saying to the guy, no, you shouldn't be able to say that, and showing up to his house wanting government agents to silence him and lock him in a cage, throwing free speech completely out of the window. If your mentality is, I believe in free speech but, then you don't believe in free speech. You can't say I believe in freedom out of one side of your mouth and then say out of the other that people need to be locked in cages for exercising their freedom if some people get offended.
Now he wants to protest the government, but then he wants to use the First Amendment from the government to say it's okay for him to do what he's doing.
And this is exactly the problem. It's the mentality that rights come from government. Rights are not given. Sadly though, the belief that rights are just gifts from government is the mentality of a lot of people, including veterans, which is extremely disturbing. The truth is, every person has unalienable, natural rights. The government doesn't give us those rights. The Constitution doesn't give us those rights. We have those rights simply for being born human beings. The Constitution's purpose is only to recognize those already existing natural rights that no government should ever attempt to violate. But now it seems that most people have gotten that totally backwards. Instead of wanting to protect actual freedom of speech, they'd rather just feel good about protecting symbols, missing the entire point. Like Michelle Manhart, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, the veteran hero who stole from a protester in April and got arrested for it, and all the right-wing websites posted about what a hero she was for protecting the flag. Basically, she saw someone standing on a flag at a college campus as a form of protest, so she decided to steal the flag from the student and fight with police, causing a huge scene and making a complete fool of herself. All literally over a dyed piece of cloth.
Why are you not touching her? Why are you not touching her?
Calm down. No. You gotta let go of this flag, ma'am. It does not belong to you.
It doesn't look like this lady's really doing this.
Ma'am, everybody back up! Back up!
I actually feel sorry for the cops in this instance for having to deal with such stupidity over inanimate objects, which to statists, of course, are more akin to religious symbols. The police actually did the right thing here. She stole private property. She refused to give it back. So she gets arrested for it and wonders why. This is your brain on statism. Shortly after, it turned out it was all a publicity stunt and she's a total hypocrite who wanted attention. But it didn't matter. The mainstream media portrayed her as a hero because veteran and flag. And the media pretty much always does this. It doesn't matter if the heroes are preventing people from exercising free speech and even using violence to do so. As long as there's a veteran and a flag involved, they're just automatically considered heroes.
Turn that flag around, I will fucking knock you out!
Last year in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there was a protest going on after a homeless man named James Boyd was shot to death by gang members wearing badges for camping in some abandoned foothills without a permit.
You got lethal right there?
Yes, I have lethal.
At the protest of the James Boyd killing, an individual was flying an upside-down flag, which is the officially recognized signal of distress. Nearby were a couple of military veterans who apparently didn't know that, or maybe they just didn't care. In their ignorance and blind patriotism, they saw the distress sign as disrespect, so they charged at the individual, screaming and cursing at him at the top of their lungs until he dropped it. This is the problem with people who think they are fighting or fought for freedom. They don't actually believe that. Freedom means accepting someone's right to do something even if you don't approve. Their mentality is, I fought for your freedoms, so if I catch you exercising a freedom I don't approve of, even though I fought for that freedom, I will lash out at you, curse at you, threaten you, steal your property, censor you, and assault you. While the individuals flying the distress signal may not have been in any immediate danger, I'd say the police department constantly killing people in their community is the reason to say there's something wrong. The problem is that the Marine cares too much about an inanimate piece of cloth, rather than the actual rights of the citizens he swore an oath to protect. Brainwashed, government-worshipping statists like that are the same ones that would be willing to fire at American citizens when asked. But of course these two veterans were considered heroes by the media. The mainstream media constantly praises the belief that violence should be brought against human beings over a piece of fabric as long as it's out of patriotism. And that's a belief that a lot of brainwashed people seem to agree with. Like these idiots.
Here with reaction is former Navy SEAL Carl Higbee. Thanks so much for being with
Thanks
us.
for having me.
Where does this come from? I mean, this girl obviously thinks it's cool to stomp on the American flag.
I mean, these people are the de-evolution of America right here. This is a growing problem in my generation, Generation Y, where we don't respect authority. We don't respect any the rights and privileges we have here as Americans. And I think that people like this need to be showed up. I mean, I'm a small government guy, but I would say that it's time for our legislators to introduce something to make it illegal to disrespect the flag and maybe even treat it like a citizen.
Do you think it's also a lack of education? I mean, does this woman not know if she went to another country, she wouldn't have people like you, Navy SEALs, fighting for their freedom? And she'd be a woman treated like a second-class citizen in many other countries? Do you think she just doesn't know? Should we give her the benefit of the doubt or not?
No. Try it in China, try it in North Korea, see what happens.
Yeah, good idea. Let's make the United States more like China and North Korea. Let's make it illegal for people to voluntarily purchase inanimate objects and step on them. Let's treat the inanimate object like a citizen.
Yeah, because this isn't the first time this has happened. This guy has helped to organize protests like this before.
Absolutely. And this is the problem. We tolerate it. We continue to let people go, and they glorify it on social media. And this is the problem with our society. We have this access to social media where one dumb person can make a massive statement nationwide and start to get other people to follow them, which is disgusting.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we shouldn't allow freedom of speech on the internet. It's too dangerous. Too many inanimate objects are being murdered. Maybe people shouldn't be allowed to freely decide if they want to follow someone on social media.
If you're a citizen and you see this happening, stop it. I don't care what the ramifications are. You need to stop it.
Again, the mentality of statists is, if you see someone destroying their own private property and you don't agree, it is morally right and justified for you to attack them because you got offended by their exercise of freedom. Newsflash. Telling people what they can and can't do with their own private property is not a principle of freedom, but it is very much so the principle of ideologies like socialism and totalitarianism. If any of these pictures offend you, congratulations. You have proven yourself to be an idol-worshipping statist. Statism is the worst religion. Statism tricks people, good people, bad people, and everyone in between into doing violent and immoral things to other people they wouldn't otherwise do, like threatening, stealing, and assaulting people for standing on an inanimate object. How many pictures have you seen shared on social media by statists that promote violating human rights over a piece of fabric? Statism is a mental disorder brought by years and years of indoctrination.
This is not a form of brainwashing. This is not a form of brainwashing. This is not a form of brainwashing.
If you are willing to assault and censor someone for standing on an inanimate object, you are no friend of liberty. You are the opposite. It's funny how people are willing to destroy liberty in order to protect what they consider to be a symbol of liberty. Keep watch. History repeats itself.
That's why, as president, I consider it my obligation to help make sure that even though less than 1% of Americans wear the uniform, that 100% of Americans honor your sacrifices and your service.
Be like, well, as long as you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. This is the equivalent of saying, as long as you aren't breaking any laws, then you don't need to have rights. Police departments always clear themselves of wrongdoing because they're in charge of their own investigations.